Hello everybody and welcome to this review of the 1975 classic film Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw. And this is a new series I'm going to be doing where I review several classic films from different eras. And there will be some spoilers in these films. I'm not going to break down the entire films, but if you've never seen this film, please watch it and then come back and watch my review. So thanks for that. And I first want to start by saying that Jaws is a very influential film. It is often considered the first summer blockbuster, for better or worse, take that as you want to. And it was very respected when it came out. It actually won 3 Oscars, including for sound, for film editing, and for the musical score of John Williams, which I think most people would agree, whatever else they think about the movie, when you see Jaws, you think of the score. It's one of the all-time great film scores. Now, Jaws also influenced a lot of fairly bad rip-off films, including some sequels which weren't the greatest either. They progressively got worse in my opinion. But you cannot blame any of that on the original film. So I break Jaws down basically into 2 halves. A good but not great first half and a phenomenal second half. The second half of this movie was really unbelievably good. I've seen this film before, but it's been quite a few years, and I forgot how good the second half of the film was. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the opening scene, which is one of the best setups to a movie I think I've ever seen. We get basically a girl goes swimming, and she basically gets attacked by Jaws, and what's great about this is I really like the mood of the scene, but we also don't ever see Jaws in the scene, and yes, it works. This is very effective use of less is more, where Spielberg doesn't even show the shark here, and it's still an effective way of shooting the scene. And part of this might have been because the limited shark appearances, the shark was mechanical. This was before they could do these kinds of things with CGI. And so the shark often was not working properly throughout filming, which led to less appearances of the shark than were originally planned, I believe. And this actually works to the film's benefit, as it makes the times we do see the shark more impactful, something I think a lot of blockbuster movies now could learn from, that sometimes less is more. Now, I said the first half of the film is good. It does a good job of setting up 2 of the 3 main characters. I think Quint could have been set up a little bit better, but he gets time to shine in the second half of the film, which I will get to. Other things that happen in the first half of the film is basically setup. Richard Dreyfuss's character Hooper comes to town after a few shark attacks and is there to analyze the situation, and he's also skeptical that the shark that is caught is the right shark, and Roy Scheider's Chief Brody is set up well, and we find out actually that he doesn't like the water or boats, and I think this is a great character trait because it sets up more fear on his part as a character, and it gives us something to invest in the character in the second half of the film when he will be in the boat and at the end of the film in the water. I really like that they give us a character that's not invincible, that's human, that has this kind of fear, because it really helps with his paranoia throughout the film. This was a very smart move in my opinion. Now, where I do have a problem with the first half of this film is there's some odd pacing in parts, and one scene in particular that I'm not even sure was needed. We already know there have been shark attacks. We already know the setup. We already know there's a mayor in the. I'm not sure if he's a mayor, but he runs the town, and he's more interested in the town's image than in the town's safety, and he's kind of a villain type character. And we already have all this set up, and then we get another scene, which I like to call the manufactured danger scene. But this one isn't totally plausible to me enough to work. Okay, we get a scene where I believe it's 4th of July, and this man refuses to close the beaches because he says, you know, it's their big time of year for money making and image and things like that. And, you know, people are on the beaches, but nobody is going in the water because obviously they've heard about some of these rumored attacks in the town. Well, we get some implausible things like he asks a couple of people, I guess, that he knows to go in the water. You know, presumably if somebody goes in, people see it and they'll all go in. Okay, that's fine. I'll believe that could happen. But then you bring your small children in the water with you. Wouldn't you make sure it's safe first? Like if you don't want to leave the children by themselves, have somebody else you know watch them. Or have one of you stay out and just one of you go in the water. You bring your whole family in there when you're not sure, really. And then to have the shark come right where the chief's son is in his boat in the pond. All the people there and the chief's son is the one that's in danger. Really? All those people and it's the chief's son. That's just a plot contrivance. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous with hundreds, maybe thousands of people there. I'm not buying that. It's like I said, manufactured danger. And there's also a shark hoax where two kids are playing a trick. And this whole scene really, to me, and it's right in the middle of the film, and it kind of hurts the pacing. The beginning and end are great. It's like right in the middle. And it's just an odd scene that I just didn't like at all. But I'm not going to nitpick too much on it because it doesn't kill the movie or anything. I just wanted to give an example of why I don't think this is a perfect movie, because everything else in this movie will be praised from this point forward. So we get to the second half of the film, which is great, where after there's another attack at the beach that I just talked about, we get a setup where the three main characters, Brody, Hooper, and Quint, are out to catch the shark. They go on a boat. And the rest of the film is just these three characters. We don't get any other characters again, even at the very end. And basically, this is a great example of how to do characterization and slow burn, as I call it. So what I mean is we get to know each of these characters through their actions, through what they say. Quint in particular, who was somewhat neglected in the first half of the film, really gets to shine here. He tells a story. You learn a little bit about his background. And I'm not going to go into all the backgrounds, but we really get to care about these characters. And that's important because in the climax of the scene, you actually care about what happens. That's how you do it. Movies of today take note. That's how you do it. Great action scenes are fun. I like them too. But without characters to care or root for, they're just not as effective. Jaws does a great job the second half of this movie. The second half of the movie is less than an hour, I would say, the way it breaks down. The way I broke it down, it's not right at the halfway point. But, I mean, for what they do in 50 some odd minutes in the second half of this movie is great with characterization. Also the slow build, like I said, not seeing that much of the shark, just seeing him just enough shark sightings to keep us invested and interested, and they're timed well and paced well in between the dialogue and characterization scenes. And like I said, the fact that they were having trouble with the shark actually works to the film's advantage, because at the end when we see a lot of a shark, it feels like a bigger deal because we haven't already seen that. Another lesson for a lot of films from any era to learn. When you slow build effectively, but with pacing, not draggy so that nothing's happening, but with pacing, and you get a little more and a little more and a little more, it leads to a great climax. And the climax of this movie is phenomenal. The last 10 to 15 minutes of this film are just great. You know, we get one of our main characters, Hooper, going down in a cage to try and catch the shark. And I don't even know how they filmed this so well in '75. This is an impressive, realistic-looking sequence, and it's intense. And we have Brody and Quint after, you know, they bring the cage up and Hooper isn't in it and they're not sure what happened. And then, you know, Jaws the shark comes right out and attacks the boat. And, you know, sadly, we lose Quint at this point, and Brody winds up getting the shark. But, and again, we care about what happens because we care about these characters. That's the important thing about it. And the climax of this film is something you can actually cheer for, which I can't always say in films. So, if I had to break this film down altogether, I would probably give the first half like a 3.5. It's still good. There's just a couple scenes that are a little slow, and that one scene really bothered me quite a bit, but I would still say it's in the very good range, which on my scale is like a 3.5. The second half of the movie is an easy 5. So if you average that out, it's like a 4.25, but because of the influence of the film, I'm going to go I'm going to round up instead of down and give Jaws a 4.5 out of 5, which I think is a very fair rating for an excellent film. If you've never seen it, I definitely recommend it. And if you have seen it, watch it again, especially the second half. You can actually just watch the second half because it's almost like its own film. So 4.5 out of 5 for the classic film Jaws. Thanks for watching.